Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? What is taking so long? I have no idea. It continues to be a waiting game, and there's so many storylines that factor into what's going on here. Dated back to just a week ago. Natalie Eganoff of 97.5 The Fanatic put out there that from her sources, she is hearing that Nick Foles, Tariq Cohen, and a first-round draft pick from the Chicago Bears is on the table, and it's around the same time frame of when national big members of the media were claiming that this was going to happen soon. Now, also factor in Tariq Cohen took it to Twitter saying that he's staying put, but I can't truly put much stock into that, considering if you are the front office, you're not going to literally tell people that you can easily play. Look, you could tell people, you could tell the player if you want to, but if you are not 100% sold that the trade will go down, well, maybe you try and play your cards the right way, hold it close to your chest, and you never tell Tariq Cohen what actually was going on behind closed doors. So just because Tariq Cohen said something and said that he spoke to somebody, that doesn't tell me the full story. What I feel is proper in that scenario, what I feel is actually what happened is, well, Natalie Eganoff was told by her respected source, and she then absolutely put out the information as she should, whether it goes down or not. I think she was told that from somebody inside that clearly she respects and feels comfortable listening to, and feels like when this person, this individual tells her information, she can put it out there. And just because it doesn't go down, it doesn't mean necessarily that she was wrong by any means. Maybe it was something that Howie had as an option, and because he's taking so long, maybe it's not there. Maybe he's trying to milk it out longer to the point where the Chicago Bears said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not waiting around. I'm not keeping this offer on the table. I'm going to move forward. There's plenty of other options we could look into, whether it's Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm not going to sit around forever. Here's the offer. Now, what counters that point is they're still in the mix with the Indianapolis Colts and another team. I just feel if there's a first-round pick on the table right now, if that's available for Howie Roseman to take, how is he not taking it? So we hear that first. Now we're hearing that Ron Jaworski is claiming the best offer he has heard is two second-round picks and a third or fourth down the road. Is that something that moves my needle? Not from the jump, but if it ends up being that or nothing, I think I will be okay with it. Now, I'm not excited. I'm not stoked. There is a line that I draw, and that goes around the third round pick mark. Sadly, that's the type of spot you're in right now as an organization. Once you start touching the third rounders, it's okay, we need to have a serious conversation about if you're willing to just throw Carson Wentz away or not. With the second round picks, and it's two second round picks that he is hearing, now that's something where it is towards the end. It's towards the line that I draw. It doesn't get me all like a first round pick would. Not that that gets me that excited. Let me calm that down a bit. But circumstances-wise, if you could get a first-round pick, well, okay, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot better, but it could have been a lot worse, and I feel like that's more of the realistic ceiling than anything else. The two second-rounders in the third or fourth down the road, that is way closer to, I don't know, are you giving him away? But it still falls in the category of, knowing how ugly of a scenario we are in, I would make the move because you can't bring Carson Wentz back, and I don't want to deal with the $10 million hit. Now, this was brought up to me. What if, to get Carson Wentz into another city, Indianapolis, hypothetically, let's throw out there, they're willing to restructure things. Carson Wentz is more willing to restructure things, and they find a way, similar to what happened with Nick Foles when he left Jacksonville. They found a way to make this work for the Chicago Bears, and they restructured things. So what if you get less compensation in terms of draft picks, but more money off of the books, and they find a way to manipulate things due to a restructure so that allows you to take less of a hit. And here's why I don't think I'd rather do that. I don't see this team being a serious contender next season. I think that that's pretty damn clear, and that's pretty damn obvious. So with that being said, I'd rather have a higher draft pick and take on a lot of dead money for one season, because even if you took some of that money off the hit, you're still not going anywhere. You still need to retool this thing. You still need to rebuild this thing to the point where I'll sacrifice taking a bigger hit this season if I'm able to get a higher draft pick, if I'm able to get a first-round pick or a higher second-round pick or 2 second-round picks. I'd rather that. I'd rather get the most compensation possible than restructuring the deal for less money on the books for this season. Because I almost look at this season, this upcoming season, as a punt type of year. Let's figure out what Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff is. Let's figure out what Jalen Hurts is all about. Let's find ways to utilize some of these draft picks and get these players some time and experience and see if we can hit on players that can actually play. Let's look at Jalen Reagor and really assess what type of player he can be in this offense under Nick Sirianni. So in terms of the cap hit, I'm almost at the mindset of just allow it to be a big hit. Take it in the ass this year, essentially, right? Just take it in the ass. Take that dead cap in the ass. And then you move on. After next year, you'll be fine. More things will open in terms of space, cap space. And then from there, you attack with a fresher mindset, with a fresher view, because the Carson Wentz drama and the Carson Wentz money is no longer in play with that dead cap. So there's so much. And then Rob Maaddi puts out there that he's hearing from a team source, not the Eagles, but a team source in the league, that they have a better deal on the table than the 2 second-rounders and a third or fourth down the road. And my problem with that statement is that's subjective. You might think that that's a better option on the table, but it doesn't mean Howie Roseman does. Is a second-rounder closer to the first round? Let's say you get offered a 38th overall pick. So 1 second rounder. Let's say hypothetically this team, whoever this team official is, of whatever organization they are a part of, they value a 38th pick more than a 45th and a 52nd. My point is something closer to the first round, but only one of them compared to 2 in the second round, maybe more towards the middle of the second and later in the second. You might value that as a better deal. It doesn't mean the Eagles do. And I honestly feel that I would rather have a first-round pick, the sixth overall pick that the Eagles have, and 3 second-rounders. And hey, if you want to move up, then so be it. You have the option to, which would be that high second-round pick anyway, or who knows, maybe you can somehow manage to move into the first round. Regardless, though, looking at all these holes, looking at getting more shots to hit on your players, you're going to have to throw a lot of darts, unfortunately. And that's where I do have a disconnect. There are some out there that hate Howie Roseman so much and despise him so much to the point where they say, well, whoop-de-doo, he might get some first-round picks or he might get a second-round pick, but he's going to miss on them anyway. And I don't have the biggest faith in the world in Howie Roseman. His recent track record will show you that he hasn't been able to be that damn successful in that area. But this is the way to do it. This is the way that you have to do it. So even though I don't trust Howie Roseman, I don't want to go down the LA Rams way of thinking where you just give up all your draft picks for known players and go down that road. I don't trust them to do that either. This is the better way to build your franchise when you're in the position that you are in right now. So with that being said, while we might not have the belief in the GM, you don't go off track and off target because, you're going to screw up the picks anyway. You still have to go this way and hope for the best. Hope that they pick a Miles Sanders in the second round. Hope that they pick a Dallas Goedert in the second round. It's been bad, big picture, but you can point out here and there players that have benefited and players that have been successful, and you got to pray that they hit on those type of players. I know it's not great, but that's the situation that we are in right now. The problem I have with some of the Howie supporters, and believe it or not, there are some out there that say he has areas of strengths, which I guess I fall in that category. I don't want to make it so obnoxious, but they look at the track record of Howie Roseman, and they say, well, since year 2000, look at their success from 2000 to 2021. And you can't deny, whether you like Howie, hate Howie, you can't deny that this organization over the 21 years, and some might say the only thing that means success is winning the Super Bowl, it's not a reality. This organization has won a lot of football games. They've been to a lot of NFC championship games. They've had sustained success to the point where you are involved more times than not in a 21-year sample size. Where I have the issue, though, is with Howie Roseman being in that category of the success. Andy Reid was such a big portion of that. He was such a big window of that 20 years. Then you have the Chip Kelly era where he was thrown in the closet. So now of these 20-plus years, how much of that is, well, you don't really know what Howie Roseman was even a part of and what he wasn't a part of. What we do know. We know Andy Reid had last say for 90% of his tenure here. And we know that after the first year of Chip Kelly ended up having all the picks, and Marcus Smith and Nelson Aguilar, those players were selected. But it's so hard to get a full-on judge of the early years. But I always say, who cares about the early years? It's a what have you done for me now business. There is a short window. This is the same organization that fires a head coach that made the playoffs 3 out of 4 years. This is the same team that fires Andy Reid after a specific time period. And I thought it was the time for him to go. But my point is, you can have quote-unquote success in this organization and still be let go. So with Howie, all the track record stuff, while it has value, it doesn't have value at the same time. I think you got to find a happy medium. You got to find the middle of, okay, well, you might not like him in the draft area as of recent, which is very valid, but you can also look through some of the trade history, and that has been an area where he has done a nice job in getting compensation, in getting nice players. Don't let the one brutal spot completely make your mindset flawed to the point where you think he can't do anything successful. Now, that doesn't mean this is going to end up that way, but if you remember some of these moves, Sam Bradford, that was a really big move. Getting that first-round pick. Now, it ended up becoming Derek Barnett, which that goes down the road of. So you're getting that pick. That's great. You're not hitting it out of the park like you need to, and that's fair. But I also think you can't go in another direction. This is what you have to do, and you have to pray that they find the right guys. This is the way that you build. You got to build here. You got to find young, cheaper talent. This is the way to do that. What the Rams are doing right now, they have Sean McVay and they have Matthew Stafford. They had the best defense last year. They're in a different mentality. And Joe Banner said this about this current team. When they won the Super Bowl, they went off track. They did something they're not normally used to doing, and that's paying these older guys and committing to, because they won the Super Bowl in 17, they thought there was a window of 18, 19, which forced them to go down this road of paying these older veterans, bringing some of these guys back, when normally, if you look through the Andy Reid regime and you look through earlier regimes, they might have cut ties earlier, and which leads them to this predicament that they're in now. So they're not used to being in this situation, and we're not used to hearing them say, we need to rebuild, we need to retool. They've only had one back-to-back season in that 20-year span of losing football, which is pretty incredible if you look at it big picture, but that doesn't really mean that they don't deserve credit. I hate how you can look at that, some may do, and look at that as, well, you can't really fault them for anything because look at their track record big picture. No, that's a very flawed mindset, but once again, you need to value that, but you need to find that happy medium of exactly where to put that into context. So with this whole retool, rebuild, Jeffrey Lurie never really fully commits to that. But because they went off track before, when it came to after winning that Super Bowl, they started paying these guys, and now they're in this uncomfortable position. now they might have to do something to fix their issues that they normally are not accustomed to doing, and that's fully selling to the fan base. We have to reshape this thing. There haven't been many seasons where you entered the football season saying, I don't think the Eagles are going to be in conversation for the division. For the most part, you have the topic and the debate of, can they beat the Cowboys? Can they beat the Giants? Can they win the NFC East? That is a common debate every season because they normally are engaged. But getting off track has now somewhat forced them to get off track now, and they need to do some unorthodox things, some unfamiliar things to get themselves in this area of, hey, we got to get back to Eagles football. Now, what is a realistic window for Howie? I think that's a fascinating question. And I know most are probably listening, banging on the table or screaming at their radio going, it's over, Brodes. It's over, damn it. There is no such thing as a window for Howie Roseman anymore. He should be fired. And I agree with you. I think Howie Roseman should be out of here. But I'm saying realistically, with Jeffrey Lurie in mind, I don't know if he gets fired because they know that this is a rebuild. They know that they don't have this winning product next season. So because of that, if they win 6 games, 7 games, is that what they are? You can't demand a 12-win season with this team right now. I don't think they're a 4-win team. I thought injuries on the offensive line and everything else, poor quarterback play, poor coaching, so much. Bad locker room presence, everything all together. Poor drafting, Jeffrey Lurie, everything forced this to be that 4-win season last year. I think they're more in that 5, 6, 7 category kind of ish than a 4-win team as long as their offensive line is a healthier unit than last season. So with that being said, if they fall in that range, how can you fire the GM knowing that that's what this roster is this season? I'm looking at it from Jeffrey Lurie's eyes, to be clear. Not my eyes, Jeffrey Lurie's eyes. My eyes, he wouldn't be here. I'm logically trying to approach this from the owner's mind, which is the only one that really matters. Sadly, he's got to say. He's the one that's able to make that move or not. So, is this more of a 2-year window? I always relate it back to Joe Banner. Eventually, Joe Banner was out of here. You thought it would never happen. Eventually, it did. So, eventually it will with Howie, and it does feel that the Eagles are at that point right now where this is major. This is crucial. Howie is looking at the crossroads. Left saves his job, right, this thing becomes a disaster. Now, if they win 1, 2, 3 games next season, then I think the conversation changes. But I think in that 5 to 7 category or anything higher, he might be safe until the following season, unfortunately. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I really do. And how fair is this to Nick Sirianni that he needs to deal with this Carson Wentz debacle, this Carson Wentz watch, if you will? It was a little bit of a tongue twister. This guy's a first-year head coach with a very young coaching staff that they need to figure out how to get this thing done and get everything ready for the offseason. The draft is going to be here before you know it. Yet all you're hearing is this drama every single day, all day long. News story, night in and night out. There's a little bit of me wondering if Howie Roseman and this organization is planning to drop it on a day where it allows people to digest the news before Monday. So I thought it would be a Friday news dump, which apparently that's not the case. Maybe it's a Saturday gig or a Sunday gig where it allows people to kind of grasp the information, get all the news, and then on Monday, yes, it's going to be a hot topic. It's the Philadelphia Eagles trading their quarterback, Carson Wentz, who signed to a big deal after having an MVP season and helping them win a damn Super Bowl. It's going to be insanely talked about heavily, but there's a difference of it dropping over the weekend compared to it dropping Tuesday at 2 o'clock, right when all the big Philadelphia media markets are ready to start their afternoon drive shows and whatnot. And I just wonder if they're strategically trying to drop this where it gets, it's not going to be less heat. But I do think having 2 days to sit on it and then everyone starts their radio shows on Monday and things of that nature, WIP, The Fanatic, 97.3, ESPN, all of it, well, that's going to play a role in the conversation from the jump. It's just a reality of the situation. So I just wonder if that is a planned scenario. Does it matter, though? Also, going back to this Nick Sirianni thing, does it matter? Should his thoughts even be in mind? And I think the answer is yes. You have a 38-year-old head coach. How should he not be involved in the thought process? But I call Doug, Jeffrey Lurie, and Howie Roseman the three stooges all season long for a reason. They're not the smartest individuals in the world, or unless you can argue that Howie Roseman is, because he's manipulating Jeffrey Lurie so much that he has tricked him. He has tricked Jeffrey Lurie into thinking that these masterful moves are more genius than they really are. So maybe I got to give Howie Roseman credit for playing mind games and screwing with the head of the owner to keep his job the way that he is, blaming others and blaming Doug Peterson and blaming other people for making an influence on a draft pick. I mean, it really is nonsense that anyone would fall for that garbage. Is Howie Roseman waiting too long? See, I don't think you should just do it just to do it. The 2 second-rounders, that is apparently an option. That's something where if that's your last possible chance, you do it, but you don't say yes to that right away. I feel that you can get a vibe on other places. You can try and move the market. You can pretend there's others in play. Maybe there's a far-fetched team like a Denver Broncos, that name constantly comes up. So maybe you can use that as leverage for your dark horse team, if you will. You got to look at everything on the table and make sure that you squeeze the most out of it. You don't just do the 2 second-rounders just to do the 2 second-rounders. But if there's a first on the table and he's not doing it, then I think that there's a problem. That's where I feel I would be more pissed off with Howie, because you're not really going to get much more. The market is what it is. You know, when you see the final trade at the end of the day, there's only so much blame I could put on Howie. Now, it depends on what the package is, but the market is what it is. You can only pull so much out. If you put a guy up there who's worth a 5th rounder, you can't get mad at the GM for not getting a 3rd rounder. And I'm not saying this specifically to a situation with Howie. I'm talking broad. I'm talking just in general, in a general sense with any GM. You can't be mad at a GM for not getting a 3rd for 5th round value. If Carson Wentz's value is X, if that's what it is, then that is what it is to a degree. You can't throw him away for nothing, but you can't sit there and beg and beg and beg and beg for this first-round talent if it's not there. I can convince myself both ways that, of course he's worth it. It's Carson Wentz. He's worth a first-rounder. But I could also see, why would he be? Look at his year last year. Why would he be a first-round pick worthy? Teams know you're desperate. And that's huge into this topic. Huge. They know you don't want him. They know you're getting rid of him. They know that this is so fractured, it will not work. So you think you have leverage. You might not have that much leverage, dude. You got to find the balance. I weirdly, though, feel that Howie is going to be all right in this one. I don't think he's going to lose something insane. He might lose a little bit, but I think you're in the ballpark. What you're hearing, I think it's going to be in the ballpark of that. And at the end of the day, you got to move on from the guy. And Chris Ballard, I think he knows what he's doing, so he's tricky. He's one, the GM of the Colts, that you need to keep your eye on, and when he says things, now he might play a little hardball, but he knows how to do it. The Bears, on the other hand, they're in a different scenario where everyone's feeling the hot seat. Everybody there is more worried about job security, and you don't really know what's going to happen in a longer period, a longer window for that franchise. So maybe they feel like, hey, we got to go out and get a Carson Wentz. You can work with him a bit, and you can play hard. See, Howie could play hardball with the Bears, but I think Chris Ballard and the Colts can play hardball with Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman has made some really decent trades in years past. So there's a little bit of me inside that thinks it'll be okay, and he might be playing his cards in a Howie Roseman way, but he has made some nice moves in the past. Also, though, you're in this territory that you have not been in before. You are now in this scenario that you are not accustomed to being into. Other trades, and I mentioned Sam Bradford, here's the difference there. The Sam Bradford trade is the fan base, and I know this kind of counters me saying that he has made some nice moves, but be aware it has happened, but there's context behind it, right? I'm a second-level guy. I like to dive a bit deeper. So it does matter. At the same time, though, this is why I'm having such a hard time trying to get in my feels. I'm all over the place emotionally. I see positives, I see negatives, I see more negatives than positives, but the positives are there. With Sam Bradford, people were excited to get rid of him because you got the first-round pick and then you were able to play Carson Wentz that season, your high draft pick. Everyone was pumped about it. You made a good move and a positive. This is, you're dumping your franchise guy that we all thought we had for years to come who's special, and the place got so toxic because it starts at the top of the front office, and it snowballed, and, you can get on Carson Wentz for the way he handled things, and I'm not in the camp of, you got to compete. Stop being a bitch and being upset. You got to compete. All right, shut up. But there's more to it than that. It's not as simple as only Carson Wentz's personality is the problem. It's part of the problem, but it's not the only problem. And I'm not happy with how he's handled things. Quite frankly, I'm a little disappointed in him. But to act as if he's a bitch, he's a crybaby, he's a loser, you haven't done enough research at all, in my opinion. You haven't dug enough into the story. There's so much more that's happening. If that same person is the one that doesn't do his work at whatever office job they have or whatever they do for a living, they might sit back, be lazy, not do as much, and then they'd bitch and complain that, that's only happening because of the people ahead of me, my bosses, and people that are above my pay rate. They start bitching at them, and they use that as an excuse for their production, for their lack of production. But I would say to you then, you're being a bitch. Do your work. Compete. Who cares what's happening above you? Do your work. Go there. Get what you need to get done. Don't be watching YouTube videos on your phone. Don't be doing this or that. Stop being a bitch. But it wouldn't work that way, right? Because it wouldn't fit your narrative. But getting back to my point of the Sam Bradford trade compared to the Carson Wentz trade, this is a disappointing, disgusting, devastating, you might not ever see something like this again type of move. One was looked at more as a positive. The other is one of the worst situations you will ever be in franchise history. So there are two totally different spots that you're in. And I'm curious, with Sam Darnold available, Jimmy Garoppolo, will at some point one of these teams move on? When you look at these quarterbacks, I'm trying to think of what's available. And this is one of the reasons why I think I feel confident that something in that first or 2 second-round picks in that area is going to be what gets the job done, no matter who's playing hardball or not. With what's left, Carson Wentz's upside, besides Deshaun Watson, everyone's clear that Deshaun Watson is amazing and in his own category. But with Carson Wentz, he has the most upside. So I would imagine that speaks for itself that the intrigue is there. With Sam Darnold, let's not act as if Sam Darnold's lighting the world on fire and everybody wants their hands on him. Let's not act like Jimmy Garoppolo, his play and his contract tie together so smoothly that everybody's ready to pounce on Jimmy Garoppolo. There's a reason why they're still available. Now, on the Sports Bash, we discussed quarterbacks that we think might be able to get more value. And I said Deshaun Watson and Deshaun Watson only. There were 2 other quarterbacks that got thrown my way. Let's say the Falcons are done with Matt Ryan. Would Matt Ryan be a name? And I'll say this. I don't think everyone's jumping on the Matt Ryan bandwagon. But if you have a team that is properly constructed to make a playoff run and you need to upgrade the quarterback and you need more of a quarterback, would you be willing to maybe give up a first rounder for an older Matt Ryan to maybe make that push in your division? I think that is realistic. I can get behind it. Do I think it will happen? I don't know. Probably not. But could it happen? Could I see a scenario where a team that is a quarterback away goes out and overpays for Matt Ryan more than a Carson Wentz would get in a package? because they look at him and they know, like, hey, Carson Wentz is a gamble. Matt Ryan isn't necessarily a gamble. You know what you're getting out of him. It's more of a safer option. And he's a veteran, has playoff experience, blew up in the Super Bowl, but, he's not as much of a liability as what Carson Wentz would be right now. So I can get behind that maybe Matt Ryan would be a player that gets more compensation. The other name, though, was Sam Darnold, and I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I don't see how Sam Darnold would get more of a package, and if that's the case, then I'm way off base with the Carson Wentz market. Or Sam Darnold was just extremely overpaid. It could be one of the two. So the only two that I can see that gets a better trade package is Deshaun Watson, which is obvious, and Matt Ryan, if a team looks at it that way. Not every team. It can't be every team. It's got to be the right situation. I could see it. Once again, I don't think it is a reality by any means. By the way, I do need to let you guys know about my friends over at Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure that your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. They even take care of all their permitting and fees right there in the office. Their solar program eliminates your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. There's no risk and no need for investment. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more, so check out their information. It is all down below. I know I kind of just went all over the map there and started out with Carson Wentz and went into Howie, a little bit of Sirianni, other quarterbacks. There's just so much to this, right? There really is. And there's so many different angles and so many different reports. It's a nightmare. It's a mess. And I don't know where we go from here in terms of when this is going to go down. We had Adam Kaplan on Football at 4 today. And he is co-host of Inside the Birds podcast, by the way, with Jeff Mosher. They do a fantastic job. If you don't check that out, you have to on their YouTube channel and any podcasting platforms. Look, this could be anywhere from 10 days to months down the road. Could happen tomorrow, could happen today, could happen 10 days from now, could happen a month from now, could happen months from now, could happen before draft day, on draft day. Which is disappointing because it's a dilemma, but it's a distraction, too. Let's commit. But with that being said, I'm not just throwing him out for nothing. I'm okay with Howie playing it strong, but he can't play it too strong. Make sure you do it the right way. Don't lose what is there. Got to play it smart. Be strong, but don't be too strong where you're asking for this compensation that's not valid, where it's way too out of base, way off base, to the point where you're losing interest insanely. Got to find the right mix here. So I've been a little quiet on the Carson Wentz news on the pod and all, but yeah, there's only so long I can stay quiet for. I was honestly anticipating the big news to drop this week, and once it did, then I would discuss it again. But here we go. We went a full week without anything happen, so that's where we're at now. I do have some personal news, though, on a side note. I have really big things coming and extending Sports Talk with Brodes. It's called Brodes Media. In the next couple of weeks, there will be more information. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. But be aware of Coffee with Brodes starting next week. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, live stream, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., where we hang out, have coffee, talk. The chat is there. We react. More of a chill setting than a broadcasting setting. Be on the lookout for that. We have an NHL podcast coming with Johnny Gaudreau of the Calgary Flames being a weekly guest. There's going to be so much more content for you that I will be a part of under the Brodes Media umbrella. So we will be rebranding a bit, retooling a bit Sports Talk with Brodes Media, morphing it together, more social media platforms. I just want you to all be aware that this is coming. Change is coming, but it's good change. It's great change. And, I'm really committing to this for the long run, and I got a lot working on behind the scenes. I got a lot going on behind the scenes, and I'm excited to share the news with you in the next couple of weeks. But I just want everyone to be aware that, hey, it's happening, and I want you to be excited. So thank you guys all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.